And here we go.
Here we go, indeed, Joseph. What's up, everybody? It's the Triple B. This is the Lone Gunman Podcast. This is episode number 357, the Canal St Showdown. Now, for our members, channel members who were with us on Wednesday night and got a preview of what we're going to be doing tonight, this is not it, as you can obviously see. So, we'll just leave it at that and move on.
Yes.
All right, Joe?
Yeah. You know, it's and
a story for another day, another members only show.
Another day, yes, sir. But before we start off, Double B coming in hot right out of the gates.
Wow.
5 spook level memberships. And let's see who got him.
Key Benefiti.
Yes. Mike Seagrass Jr. NK got one. Richard Sipe.
Nice.
I feel like a lot of people get the same memberships gifted, as evidenced by me getting 2 or 3 at this point.
Well, that means we have returning viewers, Joe, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Dee Dee Robert, who might be new, and Stephen Rose. Welcome.
Congratulations, folks. And thank you to the Big Double B. And that's not all. Bam, 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 coming through with the super chat. That's right.
Oh.
Smash the like button, folks. It's the little thing with the thumbs up.
Yes.
And if you're not subscribed, just subscribe to the show. It's real easy. Hit the bell to get notified when we drop. You won't regret it, I promise.
You will not, and it helps us defeat the ALGO, and which is might be against us. So
it was against us last week.
It's against us pretty recently, like way more than I like, but it happens. It is what it is. Let me welcome in some of our favorite channel subscribers. Of course, Paula Jane, Super Spy. What's up? What's up? Sally, Evening Chaps and Chappises.
Sally. Hello, Sally.
Is that a word, Sally? Chappises?
No, but chapped asses is. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, but it's ESSES, not ASSES.
Semantics.
Yeah. It could be Cockney, which is London slang. You know, there's a little language barrier there. Double B, of course. Hello, Sally. Of course, we already talked about Double B. Scott Edwards. Hello, sir. How are you? I'm sure he has a nice, beautiful drink ready. And Mr. Jack Taylor, how are you, sir?
Some Jack.
And Mr. PSV Odyssey, howdy. How do you, sir? How are you, Paul?
Oh, welcome in, sir. Joe didn't forget you tonight.
I didn't. I made sure of it. And Turn Horse, do it for LHO. That's what we do this for, him and Kennedy.
Yes.
And
days, Joe.
Yes, and James Smith coming in last, but definitely not least.
Yes, welcome in, James and I'm sure there'll be some stragglers rolling in here in just a minute. But before we get started tonight, we're going to set the table for you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about here. And if you couldn't figure it out from my amazing brain and the show art, which I'll pop up here one more time, for those of you not familiar with the American rock band The Misfits, they had a guitarist named Doyle, Von Frankenstein, blah, 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 blah. But he mainly went by the name Doyle. That would be him on the left. And then we have a movie projector that I put the little name of Doyle and Company on the side of.
Oh.
We're filming Lee Harvey Oswald handing out leaflets on Canal Street with a picture of Canal Street in the 1960s in the background. It's very deep, Joe. A lot of thought goes into the show art. You might not think that it does, but a lot of thought and effort does go into the show art, people.
I am aware of this, yes.
And yeah, Joe has no idea. And I don't even know if Joe understood the show art.
I was just about to say, I don't think I even know how much effort goes into it.
I try to be somewhat clever because it amuses me sometimes to try to come up with names for the show and show art, and that's my creative side just pouring out of me, if you will, which is kind of disgusting to think about, but nonetheless.
Oh man.
Before we get started here, and I know I've said that 2 or 3 times, but let me just set the table a little bit for what we'll be talking about here tonight, called the Doyle film, folks. Now, this is a film very much maligned with the John T. Martin film, okay? Because these 2 films captured the exact same thing from different angles. And that would be the street fracas on Canal Street that resulted in Lee Harvey Oswald being arrested and taken to jail. And Carlos Bernier and a couple of his buddies arrested and set free, if you will. Now, why is this important? Okay. Well, we all know the reason that the Martin film is important, because it shows something that couldn't be really astronomically odds-based possible. And that, of course, is on the same roll of film. You have footage of General Walker's house in Dallas that shows you the shots through the window, right? Which indicates this kid is in General Walker's house. And then on the same roll of film, I don't know how long in between we are here from both these incidents on the film, but you see him travel to New Orleans. You see different sites around New Orleans, like the zoo and Jackson Square. And then the film cuts to the incident, the fracas, if you will, on Canal Street. And we've all seen that a gazillion times. It's in your brain. This film was donated to the 6th Floor Museum, and you can go watch it there. And it was shot by a teenage boy, a young, smooth, very right-wing teenage boy who was very fond of General Walker. Who may have went and talked to this man in New Orleans and been directed to, hey, kid, I see you got a camera there. Hey, why don't you go over there on Canal Street and get some footage of this other guy over there?
Right.
You might wanna. Don't know, just speculating here, folks.
Right.
Now, the other film was also shot by a very young, smooth teenage boy. David Ferry would have been proud of these 2, for sure. Now, this one, however, was not alone. In fact, he was there with a multitude of people, including siblings, parents, other grown adults who were friends of the parents, and other kids who were the other parents' kids. So there's a gaggle of Fraggles, basically, walking down Canal Street that happened upon this scene, if you will. And the way it kind of went down, I believe, Joe, is that the group of males were in front. There's like a group of males walking together, which means it's this boy, his father, his father's male friend, family friend, and if they had a son, it was probably with them. And then the ladies were somewhat straggling behind, if you will, talking as women do, maybe doing a little window shopping, if you will, down Canal Street. But I believe the ladies were not far. We're talking maybe 30 seconds to a minute behind these folks.
Yeah, half a block maybe.
Yeah.
Not
because
far.
once you get into, like, we're going to get into the FBI reports and what each of them saw, you'll come to see that the guys and the girls didn't always see the same thing. Or we have another case of the FBI altering testimony, if you will, to fit the narrative, which you'll understand once we get into the film itself. Now, Joe, as you know, with the Martin film, and this is true for both the Martin and the Doyle film. So, they don't think anything of this, right? They think they got they're on vacation, whatever, they got their home movies out. They make a couple home movies. Something happens that wasn't, it was a little exciting, but nothing too crazy, right?
Right. Nothing to call up the FBI about before the assassination.
And then November 22nd happens, and Lee Harvey Oswald's face is plastered all over everything, along with descriptions of him being arrested in New Orleans. So, independently of each other, that is Martin and Doyle and their respective families, realize, oh shit, that really looks like the guy that we saw get arrested in New Orleans. And oh yeah, by the way, we had our movie cameras with us. We got film of this guy, right? So each of them independently on their own, they weren't tracked down by the FBI. They called the FBI and they offered up their home movies. Now, the interesting thing is that both the Doyle family and John T. Martin would also allege that the film they turned over to the FBI to be perused, for anything significant, any clues maybe that would help the world understand Lee Harvey Oswald a little more.
Yeah. On their own volition, both of them, by the way.
Yeah. So they handed over their films to the FBI. The FBI, of course, looked at the films, determined that there was nothing of value here, and claimed that they gave the films back. Now, both the Doyle family and the Martin family, they both say that both of their films were edited by the FBI. Like, as in, things were taken out. And when it comes to the Martin film, as you'll see, a lot was taken out. Like 2.5 minutes worth of shit taken out. Like, not just a little bit, not 5 seconds here or there, but significantly edited and then returned to them, which is a problem once we start getting into the descriptions of what they actually saw. that day. So, Joe, without further ado, let's get into some FBI documents because I think that's where this story starts.
Okay. Do you want to show the film first, or you want me to
Oh,
get
yeah,
right
I
into
forgot about that. Sorry.
Okay.
Might help if everybody saw the film.
It's okay. Tiny, I don't know what the hell you're talking about here. She goes, sorry, there is no evidence that the 17-year-old was behind the camera himself. And she has to be referring to John T. Martin because uh, Jim Doyle was like 14. Some people said he's 16, but according to the documents, he's 14. He had the film that was given to the sixth floor. The assumption that he shot the film himself is just that, assuming.
I believe we've got a variety of documents that states that he was definitely the one filming. There's absolutely no documents out there pertaining to John T. Martin of his parents being interviewed or talked to, which is different when you get to the Doyle film because Doyle at the time is 14 years old, 13 or 14.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They don't even interview him.
No.
They talk directly to his parents.
And we know that little Jim Doyle was there with his parents. We don't know, and Rob and I are pretty positive that John T. Martin made the trek to New Orleans without his parents.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
No, we assume. But
we have a lot of correspondence when we look, trust us on this. There's a lot of stuff in there in the Weisberg archive from when Harold Weisberg was at the University of Minnesota and him and Gary Schoner ran into Martin, and from talking to him, they got a lot of the background stuff. And he definitely filmed it and all of that. So,
and you have the FBI documents in December '63 of him submitting his tape, and when he got back home from military school, and it says it was taped by John Martin. So I'm not sure. Maybe I misinterpreted that. If I did, Tiny, I'm sorry. But
and
Rob,
he's never denied it. All these years, he's never denied it. Whoa. Hey now.
Early comment of the night, possibly. David Ferry making tight ends into wide receivers.
You got to make a hole big enough to run through, Double B.
And Scott says, and I think this is trolling us a little bit, not trolling us, but making a joke. One filmed for Harvey, the other filmed Lee.
Well, we'll get there, Scott. Trust us.
Yeah,
all right, so let's take a look at this film real quick, Joe.
Let
me pull it up here. There's no sound. And like I said, it's only about 30 seconds long.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Ashley, how are you? Thanks for joining in. And Timothy Ryan. What's up, sir? How are you? And Moose Heaven. Touchdown. What's up?
All right, Joe, stop for a second.
Sorry, stragglers are coming in, sir.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Hi, Rob and Joe.
Oh.
I got my t-shirt.
Hi, Sally. Wrong video. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. Take 2.
Yes. You see Lee in the center there. Lee again. Bunch of scafoozas in white shirts and hats.
And it ends with Mrs. Pat Doyle looking sexy in front of a eucalyptus tree. Right?
Yeah.
Now, real quick before we move on from this.
I never caught that. Good catch.
What?
Mrs. Doyle there. I I never did. I never caught that.
Smoking hot, Miss Doyle.
Yeah. I mean, he was the president of American Construction something. We'll get to there. But so you would think he would have a pretty good-looking wife.
Now, I paused it here because, as you'll see in the documents, if Joe would stop throwing shit on the screen while I'm talking, right there in the middle of the screen, I believe is a trash can, Joe. Do you see it? It's cylindrical in shape and white.
I do, just to the right of the street lamp. Yeah.
Yes, and there's something leaning against it that is not facing us. It is actually facing away from us. And I believe, as we'll see in the documents, that may have been one of the placard signs that either Oswald or the guy he was with, yeah, you heard that right, folks, was wearing.
Yes.
I just wanted to point that out there.
Yes. That's a good point. And we will hear that. It surprised me, actually, looking into this again. And Trey, what's up, buddy? Coming up with a $10 super chat. Good to see Sally again.
Oh, shit.
Yes, it was.
Damn, we making money tonight, Joe.
You.
Much appreciated from Shreveport Trey.
Double B, Task Force Hottie from Ireland. Yeah, I mean, Double B is not far off there.
All right, I got to figure out how to get this goddamn video off the screen. Hold, please. What the hell? I promise I'll figure it out here in just a second, folks. Well, that's not it.
We don't mind looking at Mrs. Doyle. It's okay.
There we go. All right, we're back.
All right. So yeah, as we like to do, Rob, we like to go in chronological order, but before we get into the FBI documents you referenced a minute or two ago.
We are going to go in chronological order, Joe.
Yeah.
We discussed before the show.
Yeah. No, I said. No, I know. I'm aware.
Okay.
I said, let's, because as the video you just showed has like a stamp in the middle of it. I think it's a WDSU library something. Friend of the show.
Okay.
Okay, what did it say?
It did not say WDSU library.
Okay.
I don't know what it said, but it doesn't matter.
It does not matter, correct? Friend of the show, Alex Harris, of course, JFK theorist on YouTube. Friend of Lancer, and whenever I have any video or photo questions, I shoot him a message, and he gave me a bunch of stills back, and these are stills from the Doyle film. So I thought I'd go through a couple of these before we get into the FBI documents. There's only like 6 of them, without the kind of stamp in the middle of it. And of course, in the middle there, you see Mr. Lee or Harvey, depending on your perspective, right in the middle of this guy in the suit to the right and this Gafuz on the left. Here you see Lee, who is kind of reaching his arm out here, talking with the Cubans. I believe this is Carlos Brignier to the left of his elbow. But we could debate that. And Rob, you'd be surprised to hear that a lot of the witnesses said they saw a group of up to 8 Cubans.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
among other things.
Yeah. You have Lee Harvey Oswald, kind of like, again, in the middle, with kind of like some light reflecting off his face, left side of his face from our view. Then you have, and this is why I said Carlos Bernier, because I think he's the guy to the left of Lee, although it doesn't look like Lee, but from the rest of the
Him in
picture.
the sunglasses.
Yeah.
And a gigantic forehead.
Yeah. This is another one. This is another one. This is Lee here in the middle, with kind of like the plumber's crack in his shirt there, kind of talking to the police.
Note the black policeman, which is
that I just saw that, Rob. It looks like a black woman policeman, but I don't think that would have been the
I
case.
wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, but you're right. That's a good point. Here you have again Lee.
Come on now, gotta take it down a notch. Come on now. Come on, back up. Back up. Hey.
Here you have Lee again, his back towards us. I think Bernier to his left, and the 3 police officers, 1, 2, 3, right around him. And yeah, so James Pat Doyle
Senior
was in New Orleans for a convention, and his 14-year-old son took this video. And I think it's a very different circumstances, Rob, before I read this, than the John T. Martin film, because we have talked about that and how we think John T. Martin, who obviously had filmed Walker's House, was probably sent from Dallas to New Orleans for something.
Yeah, I think this
involved.
was a totally organic coincidence.
Correct. Yes, I can't agree more. So it is really interesting to see the similarities between them. And
I think a much better quality movie than John T. Martin's. Like, I think he had a better camera, better film. Just the quality of it is way better.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess the Doyles went to the FBI on November 26th. Let me see when this was transcribed. Yeah, so this was conducted, this interview, at FBI Portland office, Portland, Oregon, 11/26/63. So Sunday was the 24th. This would be the Tuesday after the assassination. J. Pat Doyle, Portland, Oregon, advised that he is employed in electrical construction work for the Charles T. Barker Construction Company in Portland. In August 1963, he attended an electrical contractors convention in New Orleans, Louisiana. He was accompanied by Matt Wilson, who also was in the electrical construction business in Portland. Both men were accompanied to New Orleans by their wives and 2 children. At about 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, August 9th, a good day if I say so myself, Rob, 1963, Mr. Doyle, Mr. Wilson, and the young son of each were walking on Canal Street in New Orleans, approximately a quarter of a block behind Mrs. Doyle, Mrs. Wilson, and their 2 daughters. Okay, so they were behind. The kids were behind. The wives were in the middle. And the husbands, Mr. Wilson and Doyle, were kind of a quarter block ahead of that. Is that how you read this?
That's how you're reading it, but I think they got it a little backwards, because it seems to me like you'll see here as we talk, the Doyles saw something different than the Wilsons, which is odd, because Matt was with Pat, and then the 2 wives were together.
Yeah, we will get there shortly. I mean, We are in.
And we'll point out the major differences in their story here in just a second, but
Okay.
we'll go through the Doyles first, and then we'll get into what the Wilsons say. Now, I don't know if this is a matter of, the FBI and what questions they asked, or, these people remembering things differently. I don't know, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Let's see. As they reached a point approximately in the middle of the block, some 5 blocks toward the Mississippi River from the Jung Hotel, they observed 2 young men who were carrying signs which bore pro-Cuban inscriptions. They had leaflets in their hands. One of the men wore on his front a yellow or orange colored sign which bore as part of its inscription the words Viva Fidel. And
Yes.
He's referring to Oswald here, I guess. And if you want a visual clue, do you remember the what's that movie with shit, I'm blanking on his name. Die Hard, right? Bruce Willis, when he went into that neighborhood as a cop and wore that placard, "I hate Enners."
Whoa.
That's kind of how I feel going into New
That was
Orleans.
a short I could not use on the cover.
Yeah. But that's. But I'm making a point here. I mean, like, I feel like that.
Harvey Oswald's head on Samuel L. Jackson's body.
I feel like that's like not far off as to the kind of reception he would get.
Yeah, and notice in the language, there is multiple points in here where plurals are used, like men, not man, men, signs, inscriptions.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
One of the men.
Yep. As Mr. Doyle, Mr. Wilson, and their 2 sons reached the scene, a group of persons who appeared to be Cubans took issue with the 2 demonstrators, and almost immediately, police officers arrived and prevented trouble. After a short discussion, the demonstrators, right, Rob? Just to your point 10 seconds ago, were placed in a patrol car by the officers and taken from the scene. During the argument, a placard carried by the demonstrator not wearing the sign was smashed, and the leaflets were torn from the hands of the men and scattered on the sidewalk. And of course, that's what we see in the John T. Martin film. All those
ripped up flyers.
Yeah, leaflets. Yeah, exactly. The pieces of the placard were placed in the patrol car when the men were taken away. Motion pictures of the incident were taken by Jim Doyle, 14-year-old son of Mr. Doyle. Following the assassination of President Kennedy, Mr. Doyle and other members of his family viewed the film taken in New Orleans and were agreed that the pictures of the young man who wore the yellow-colored sign strongly resembled photographs they had seen of Lee Harvey Oswald. Again, taken on the Tuesday, November 26, 1963, 4 days after the assassination, 2 days after Lee were killed.
Portland, Oregon.
Yep, by the Portland FBI office. Right.
Yes.
Right. So now we go to Mrs. J. Pat Doyle.
Charlene, if you will.
Charlene, yeah.
Sexy Charlene.
I think that's probably her first name, but they kind of.
What is it?
No, I know. That's how they used to say it. Like, you're not Mrs. Charlene Doyle, you're Mrs. J.
Give her her own name, damn it. Charlene.
Yeah.
Not Mrs. Joe Borelli.
Hey. Mrs. J. Pat Doyle advised that she accompanied her husband to New Orleans, Louisiana in August 1963, where Mr. Doyle attended an electrical contractors convention, making the trip with them with their two children, Jim, age 14, and Sharon, age 11.
Sharon.
Bro, so asking about Sharon. Okay, so I'm going to give a little spoiler.
Easy now.
Your boy called the store today that we were going to get into in a little bit. And I asked, because I heard Jim, age 14, is not alive anymore. I go, is Sharon managing this store? And they go, the Doyles didn't have a daughter. Interesting. We'll get there, I promise. Let's see.
Well, maybe she passed away before a certain time period. I don't know.
That's possible too. I said, are the Doyles still involved in this business? They said, no, it's in a trust. I go, how about Sharon? They didn't have a daughter. I was like, what? So, because I'm looking at FBI documents, but this is just some scafoos on the phone. We'll get there. Accompanying the Doyles to New Orleans were Mr. and Mrs. Matt Wilson of Portland and their two children, Marcia, age 13, and Donald, age 11.
Marcia.
Yeah.
And little Donald Trump, Doyle Wilson, the third.
Mr. Wilson attended the convention with Mr. Doyle. On the afternoon of Friday, August 9th, 63, at about 4 o'clock, the two families were walking along Canal Street, some 5 blocks from the Jung Hotel. Mrs. Doyle, Mrs. Wilson, with her daughters, were walking approximately a quarter of a block in front. I was wrong, Rob, of Mr. Doyle. Mr. Wilson thought they were behind.
Yeah. I thought I had read that they were in front.
Oh,
I kind of saw two different things, but we'll get there.
yeah. And about the middle of the block, they passed 2 young men who were carrying signs. Again, this is the wife saying there was another Scafuza person with Lee Harvey Oswald.
And again, this is both the Doyles, husband and wife, telling the story.
Right.
Yes. Even though they were walking in 2 separate portions of the street.
Caravans, yes.
Which could account for the guys and the girls seeing 2 different things. But as you'll see, once we get to the Wilsons, their stories match up. So, I don't know. It's going to be a tough one to figure out, but we're going to try.
Yeah, we will definitely try. One of these men was carrying a placard on a stick, and the other wore on his front a yellow and orange colored sign, which as part of the wording said Viva la Fidel. The 2 men also were carrying leaflets in their hands. Okay, so those are both the Doyle parents, or I guess, wait, there's a little more. Shortly after the woman passed these men. Okay, so the women passed them first. A disturbance started. So they're right in the middle of it, these Doyles. When other individuals who had
women passed.
Shortly after the women passed these men.
Yes.
A disturbance started with other individuals after she passed Oswald and the Cubans. Or Oswald and his Scafuza friend.
Yes.
Who had the appearance of started when other individuals who had the appearance of Cubans started arguing with the demonstrators. The placard was smashed and the leaflets scattered on the sidewalk. Police officers soon appeared, however, and prevented further trouble. They also placed the two young men in a patrol car, along with the pieces of the placard, and took them from the scene. Now, Rob, I'm not aware of anyone else, and if you are, please let me know and educate me, of anyone else arrested with Lee Harvey Oswald on August 9th, 1963.
No, just the 3 Scafuza Cubans, Bernier, Hernandez, and
Manuel Cruz or something, right?
No, Miguel Cruz.
It was Cruz or wasn't Cruz?
Miguel Cruz.
Okay, Miguel Cruz. Miguel. All the same. Details matter. Thank you for correcting me, sir.
But
During this,
as we'll see, there may have been more.
a lot more. During the difficulty, motion pictures were taken of the incident by young Jim Doyle. Since the assassination of President Kennedy, Mrs. Doyle and her family viewed the pictures taken by her son and had agreed that the demonstrator who wore the yellow-colored sign strongly resembled photos they had seen of Lee Harvey Oswald. And, of course, we just went through those stills, and we can confirm it is indeed Lee Harvey Oswald.
Now, Joe, I would also say it's a little suspicious how fast the cops rolled up on the scene, which again screams to me this is some kind of a stage thing, right? The fact that John T. Martin is there filming, the fact that this fracas didn't get out of hand because the cops were there immediately. Like, oh, it just so happens there was a police car driving by when all this shit happened. Maybe, but what are the odds? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, there's some odds there. Immediately.
Yeah, and then when you consider what Lee allegedly said to Carlos Bernier, saying, "All right, Carlos, come on, hit me."
Yeah, like he knew he wouldn't because the cops just pulled up, like, let's all go to jail. Hit me. Make a better story. Hit me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, sometimes some of the toughest people on the surface are people that know it's going to get intervened right away.
Well, and again, you got to remember too that this was probably the second fracas that Oswald was involved in with Cubans, and the first one he kind of got his ass kicked a little bit. He definitely got roughed up. I don't think you have this in the presentation, Joe, but it should be mentioned here.
The Easterling.
Yeah, well, Oswald wrote that letter on August the 1st to VT Lee, okay, talking about an altercation that he had with some Cubans and that the police got involved. Okay, well, this incident we're talking about here that was filmed by these two boys didn't happen until August 9th. Now, he wrote the letter on August 1st. It is postmarked. He mailed it at 6:30 at night on August the 4th from New Orleans. Again, August the 4th to August the 9th, this incident still hadn't happened yet. Okay. So was Oswald, again, looking into the future and either having knowledge that they were going to try to stage this again to garner some attention, or was he referencing a prior incident? And let's just say me and Joe are looking into some other things about this to try to bolster that argument a little bit with supporting evidence, but that is out there. And I'll just leave it at that here for now because we got something big coming up here in a couple months. Just saying.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have some fun things on the horizon here, sir.
Yeah.
So, of course, the Doyles were interviewed on November 6th, as is stated at the bottom of this document, the FBI document. It's actually the Warren Commission report, the Gibberling report, I believe it is.
Well, that's just documents in the Gimberling report. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, it was the interview was conducted on the 26th and released on the 27th, from what I could see. And then on the 27th, you have an FBI report to Director J. Edgar Hoover from Special Agent in Charge, Portland, Oregon. And this is the really interesting thing, Rob. This is the title of this. Jack Leon Ruby, aka Jack Rubenstein, Lee Harvey Oswald, aka Alec J. Hadell, O.H. Lee, victim, civil rights. Forwarded under separate cover to the Bureau. Forwarded under separate cover. So their communication about the Doyle film was forwarded under separate cover, as in, like, the title wasn't the Doyle film, for example. They kind of, I think they tried to hide it under, like, these general things, right? These general titles. Let me know your thoughts. You can let me know.
I don't know. It just might have not been in the same package as the paperwork, because as we'll hopefully you have when it comes to the Doyles and how they got their film developed and what exactly they showed to these guys and what got sent, recommendation wise. I think, and again, with the allegations of the film being edited, I think you're right that the film was sent with some other documents, and this is just basically a sanitized version of an accompanying document to the film.
Yeah, it might be. I'm not sure, and I really do hope I have that. I think I do. At approximately 4:00 in the afternoon is that same document, the FBI document, kind of recapping the Doyle's testimony.
But don't scope over the last line of that first page there. Enclosed herewith for Dallas are 9 copies of FD 302s incorporating information supplied by Mr. and Mrs. Doyle. 9 copies, folks. You don't send 9 copies of anything unless it's a little bit of important.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. That's why I am glad you are watching here. At approximately 4:00 in the afternoon on Friday, August 9th, 1963, the two families were walking on Canal Street in New Orleans when they observed 2 young men who were carrying pro-Cuban signs and distributing leaflets. One carried a placard on a stick, according to young Sharon Doyle. This placard bore the figure of Statue of Liberty and some such wording as Cuba in chains and only 90 miles from the U.S. The other man, possibly Oswald, was wearing on his front a yellowish or orange color sign which bore the wording, quote, Viva la Fidel, which we heard from the Doyles, and other believed similar to that on the placard. The Doyle family were agreed on the Viva la Fidel. The Doyles said that the demonstration was taking place in the approximate middle of the block on Canal Street, some 5 blocks towards Mississippi River, Jung Hotel. As the Doyles and Wilsons passed the area, the 2 demonstrators were, quote, rushed by 8 Cubans.
Yeah, let's pause there for a second and take that in. 8 Cubans, which is 5 more than we know of.
Yeah, not 3. 3 and 8, big difference.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Who argued vigorously with the 2 men.
Again,
It wasn't 3-on-1. We have 8-on-2.
Yeah. And trouble appeared imminent. Continuing. Several police officers arrived on the scene immediately, however, both by car and on foot. And after talking to the 2 demonstrators for a time, apparently arrested them, both of them, and placed them in a patrol car. This, however, was not before the placard on the stick had been smashed and the leaflets scattered on the sidewalk, which of course we see in the Martin film. It was believed by the Doyles that the pieces of the placard were picked up and placed in the police car. Interesting. Mr. Doyle commented that the policemen were able to arrive on the scene so hurriedly, apparently because they had been, quote, keeping an eye, end quote, on some picketing by Negroes, which was taking place across the street a short distance away.
Okay, well, that kind of explains why the cops were there immediately, but also very convenient.
Yeah, it's very convenient. And Negroes are different from Cubans. Yeah. He would say, like, picketing by other dark-colored folk, whatever. Yeah, it's different. The pictures of the incident in the enclosed roll of film, this is, again, November 27th, were taken by young Jim Doyle. It was noted that other vacation pictures appear on the roll, both before and after the New Orleans incident, of course, like the John Martin film, right? Like when he went to the zoo and the park and, City Hall and all that bullshit, right? Not everything is Oswald. The pertinent portion of the film occurs immediately following scenes showing Sharon Doyle in front of a statue and a brief view of Mrs. Doyle standing alone. It ends with a view of what appears to be a warehouse on the river. Yes, that's the very end of the film. At one point, the individual who was possibly Oswald, and it's not possibly Oswald, we know it was Oswald. It's very obvious. Can be seen with his back to the camera. Again, we talked about that. He kind of had his shirt tucked in. That kind of looked like a plumber's whatever. Correct? Right? We made that joke. Talking to an officer. He is motioning with one hand. We saw that as well. Mr. Doyle explained that he apparently was indicating that he had a right to walk on the sidewalk. And that sounds like an argument Lee would make. Right? I can chill on the sidewalk.
I'm exercising my free speech rights.
Yes. I get a million
right here on this public sidewalk.
At one point, his yellow sign can be seen. Of course, we don't see that sign in the Doyle or John T. Martin film, but not deciphered. His companion never appears. Again, leading credence to things were taken out. And you have to wonder, Rob, why would you take out his companion in these videos unless this companion was an asset or maybe even an agent of yours?
Exactly.
Yeah. The film was being forwarded in order that the Bureau may make copies to the pertinent scenes, blah, 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 blah. And in view of the circumstances, information.
Though, however, that the film be returned to him.
Yes. He said, keep it as long as you need, but give it back to me eventually. And this is when Weisberg comes in a little. It was returned to him in 1964, but he then contacts Weisberg and says, this isn't the film I took, type of thing. And Weisberg does like a FOIA, and it creates a whole other
we'll get there.
Yeah, thing of documents. And then this is later that day. This is Matt Wilson. This was the Scafuza that was with J. Pat Doyle, also from Oregon. Both men were accompanied by their wives and children. Family consisted of his wife and two children, Marcia, Donald, blah, blah, blah. the location of the entire group was the same thing. As Mr. Wilson and his companions reached a point about the middle of the block, they noted a young man who was wearing a yellow-colored sign, again corroborating that Oswald was probably wearing a yellow-colored sign during this whole thing.
The other guy was just carrying a sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About the time this young man was observed, a group of individuals who appeared to be Cubans approached and took issue with him. Police officers soon arrived, prevented trouble. It's kind of worded the same way. And the leaflets were tore before being scattered on the sidewalk. And then you have something from...
Hang on real quick, Joe. Go back.
Yeah.
Now, what's missing from this statement, folks, is any mention of two men. There is no mention of men or two men. As you can see, they noted a young man who was wearing a sign. The sign, not signs, bore this something. And at the time this young man was observed, right? So that there's no plurals, there's no men, there's no two men from Mr. Wilson as opposed to the Doyles.
You know, that's a really good point, Rob, because we know that the Doyles were interviewed on 11/26, right? The Wilsons, and I didn't include his wife's thing in here because it's kind of the same thing, were interviewed the day after. But if you look on the bottom right-hand corner, date dictated was 2 days later.
Well, that's what's interesting because his wife, her FBI statement also does not mention two men, signs, no plurals, no men. But again, you had the women walking together. So you have Mrs. Doyle saying there was two guys. You have Mrs. Wilson saying there was one. And then you have Mr. Wilson and Mr. Doyle walking together. And Mr. Doyle says there's two guys, right? His daughter Sharon said there were two guys, and she was walking with the ladies.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Wilson says there was one guy. So it's very odd.
Very odd. And I think, Rob, like, it wasn't dictated until the 29th. So it makes me think like they're trying to get their ducks in a row by this point. Like,
yeah, because they would have had time to watch the film, figure out, oh, shit. Look who's in here with Lee. We need to trim this down a little bit. And then they transcribed the Wilsons interview and eliminated all mention of plurals, men's, and trimmed it into being one man, one sign, right. 3 Cubans, not 8, that kind of thing. Like,
right. Exactly.
Whew.
Yeah. And listen, they had a couple more days to kind of get their ducks in a row. And,
yeah, because at about the same time, Joe, really, in Minnesota, right, you have kind of the same thing going on with the Martin film, right? About the same time.
Yeah, I think John Martin gave the film or contacted the FBI when he got back from military school, like early December. So this would have been a week or two before that, maybe.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at the documents.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, they don't know exactly what loose ends to tie up in the early days of this shit. Right?
Yeah. Obviously, it was bad enough, whoever this other person was with Oswald, to be like, all right, at this point, this motherfucker has to be a lone nut. Okay. Right. We can't have him with this person, especially with this person, whoever this person was.
Yeah.
Because it would have created way too many more questions that they couldn't answer or maybe didn't want to answer.
Yeah, I think didn't want to answer. I mean, I think it would be even perfect to interview the Wilsons and have them kind of contradict what the Doyle said, so they could be like, "We don't know what's going on," type of thing. Was there one? Was there two? This is an FBI report. This is not an interview with like a transcript of the interview, right? So they can kind of dictate what the report says.
It wasn't for public consumption, really.
Right. It's crazy, man. We're getting there. We're getting there. So I also found it interesting that it was dictated 2 days later, 27th, 29th, because this was dictated 1 day later.
Well, you figure, they talked to the Doyles and they got their story, and then they mentioned that the Wilsons were with them, so then they had to track down the Wilsons and go talk to them, and then it makes sense.
Yeah, but like, what better strategy than to like have their like details of their description like go against each other, right? To be like, we don't know what's going on, type of thing.
Yeah, just everything more confusing.
Right, exactly.
Because at the point that they took the Doyle's testimony or interview or whatever, they hadn't seen the film yet. I'm sure the interview takes place and then the film's handed over, right? So at that point, who is this other guy with him? Who knows? Could be nothing. Could be not a big deal. Could be some scafuza like he hired to hand out, pamphlets like Charles Steele guy or whatever. That's actually nobody with no affiliation.
Yeah.
Then they watched the film and they were like, "Oh shit, this guy's somebody with some affiliation."
Right. And have to cover up that at that
by
point.
Then the reports are made, type of thing, and
now we have to fix those reports.
Yeah, but let's go talk to the Wilsons and we'll kind of change the narrative a little bit.
Yeah. And you really don't even need the Wilsons' testimony at this point. I guess they could corroborate some stuff, but
you can't say the FBI didn't do their due diligence, Joe.
That's true. As Mr. Wilson and his companions reached a point about the middle of the block, they noticed a young man who was wearing... Did I read this already?
Yeah, because we pointed out that it's singular. Young man, young man, one... Yeah.
Okay, so then Weisberg... so we're talking late 1963... some of this is in the Warren Commission in the Gemberling report, but then you have Weisberg doing kind of like a FOIA, sending an email or message to the Deputy Attorney General, and this is the Justice Department, and or I guess it's from the Attorney General to the FBI. It's hard to read, but Mr. Weisberg,
in the course of doing his his FOIA request on the Martin film, I believe he was also, I guess
he lumped them in. No, you're right. Yeah. No, he said, I want these films of the assassination. I want the Doyle film. I want the Martin film. I want this. I want that. He lumped it together.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, he probably received some documents on both films, I would guess, or he saw a reference to this in the commission documents, the Doyle film. And upon seeing the Martin film, and hearing John T. Martin's description of also there being somebody with Oswald, this is what ignited the fire under Weisberg's ball sack.
Yes.
Right.
And Schoner, yeah.
Because they had a hard on to try to figure out who this other guy was. That's why they were so hyper fixated on this part of the Martin film, and not the fact that it just showed General Walker, and shots from the inside of his house. On the same film that the guy who would later be accused of shooting at Walker is on the exact same roll of film, which again, the odds of that are astronomically impossible.
Yes.
So, but they didn't put two and two together back then. They were hyper fixated about figuring out who the other person was with Oswald, which led Weisberg to get his hands on the Martin film, which he did straight from the source. And then he wanted to try to get this other film because it captured the exact same thing from a different angle.
Right.
I could just imagine his disappointment when he finally did see the Doyle film and was like, shit, there's nothing here.
I mean, but I don't know if there's nothing here. I mean, there are some scafoozas there that aren't shown. No, of course, yes, yeah, it's not definitive. So I think this is from Weisberg, or no, this is a document. I think DOJ document referring to Weisberg's requests. Asked for all, quote, film and relative reports of L.H. Oswald's literature distribution and arrest in New Orleans, 863, taken by Jim Doyle, John Martin, WDSU TV, and W something L TV, photographers, and by an unknown person. Prints of WDSU film made to show third man assisting Oswald. Now we don't have two, we have three, Rob. As further described in attached letter. In addition, Mr. Weisberg requests, quote, all reports on, of, or about, and interviews with James Powell, Army Intelligence. Okay. We did go over that a few shows ago, although it's not really relevant to this. The circumstances concerning the taking of pictures in New Orleans on August 1963 by Jim Doyle, the 14-year-old son of J. Pat Doyle of Portland, Oregon, are set out in commission documents 6 and 30. The film contained a few shots of Oswald at the time of his arrest, but it also contained personal pictures of the Doyle party and like he wants it back after they're done type of thing. Fast forward to the HSCA. Weisberg is still kind of going at this here. Weisberg's formal request asked for film and relevant reports of L.H. Oswald's literature distributions. Actually, this actually might be the same thing. So then, let me see if there's anything good here. All right, so the next thing I have here, it's more of the same. The next thing I have here is the ARRB stuff, and I'll let you talk about that, and I'll kind of bring it up as you talk about it.
All right. So yeah, here's where things kind of take an interesting turn because there's only so much we can do with an incomplete film and allegations from both of them that their films were edited. And we get this from Weisberg when it comes to the Martin film. And then we get to an interesting, let's just say, phone conversation. Fast forward to the ARRB, done by David Montague, one of the, investigators for the Assassination Records and Review Board, because they're looking for a copy of the Doyle film. Because shocker, I don't believe there was one at NARA, Joe.
It's not a shocker to me.
Because the FBI didn't turn over their copy that they supposedly made of the Doyle film to Nara, which is a problem and makes you wonder why and all of that.
Nara, man.
So we have here a letter to Jeremy Gunn dated October the 1st, 1996. We're smack dab in the middle of the ARRB.
Oh, sorry, it's not.
Based on a previous conversation with Doyle Jr. and Thomas Samolak, for which Nara provided the tip, I called Doyle to inquire about his information regarding the assassination, his film of Oswald, and any other records that he may have for the JFK collection. Doyle said he had a film of Oswald in New Orleans showing him passing leaflets on Castro. He was cordial and said that he would like to donate the film to the collection, but he would first like to know more about us and what we do in here. He would also like to ensure safe passage for his materials to the archives. I described the work of the review board and described the archival facilities for film material at the archives too. I told him that I would explain the deed of gift process after we further discussed his potential donation. The film. In 1963, Doyle lived in Oregon with his family. His father, James Pat Doyle Sr., was the head of the National Electrical Contractors Association. Now, Joe, just to point this out here, this is the first time that we are actually hearing from Jim Doyle, the guy who actually shot the film. For some reason, the FBI didn't talk to him, but they talked to his 11-year-old sister. Okay. Although Doyle was 14 at the time of the assassination, he remembers many of the details from his trip to New Orleans. The Doyle family went sightseeing on either August 20th or 22nd, 1963, during the convention. Now, of course, his dates here are extremely fucked up because we know the incident happened on August the 9th.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doyle remembers thinking that New Orleans was wilder than Oregon, which he had expected. A lot of scafoozes in New Orleans, young Jim. Believe that. You're dodging David Ferries all day downtown, boy.
Yeah, bet.
Damn. It was like the wild, wild gay West back then. Using an 8mm Bell & Howell movie camera with a hand crank and Kodak 8mm film, Doyle filmed people and scenery during their sightseeing. Doyle filmed a man, singular, passing out yellow pro-Castro flyers and a group of approximately 7 to 8 adult males. Again, we have this giant number, 7 or 8 adult males approaching the leaf litter. Now, here's where it gets interesting, folks. One of these adult males pulled a stiletto or long knife on the leaf litter and threatened him. No shit. Now, this is the first time we are hearing of a knife being brought to a fracas.
I've never heard of that before.
You know? He approached the leaf litter, began questioning the people involved, or the police approached the leaf litter and began questioning the people involved and arrested the leaf litter. Again, a lot of singular affects here.
Right.
A crowd of approximately 40 people watched on. As the crowd dispersed, Doyle filmed the crowd for a few moments while he was walking backwards with his back to the sun. When he returned from the convention, he mailed the film to Glendale, California, Kodak Developing Center for processing. Now, like I told you at the beginning of all this, On November 23rd, 1963, the family was watching television as Jack Ruby shot Oswald at the DPD. Again, his dates are a little fuzzy here because that didn't happen until the next day on the 24th. But we won't hold that against young Jim.
Yeah, he was 14.
Doyle's younger sister, Sharon, mentioned that Oswald resembled the leafleter who was arrested in New Orleans. The Doyle family watched the film to verify the resemblance, and Doyle's father, who Doyle described as a, quote, patriotic American, called the Portland FBI office immediately to report the film. The FBI sent 2 agents to the Doyle home that day to view the film. After viewing it, they said they'd like to borrow it for further study. Doyle believes the agents provided the family with a receipt, and after several months, Doyle's father requested that the FBI return the film, but the FBI did not return the film. Now, this directly contradicts FBI documents that we have that say that their film was returned to them in late January of 1964, around the same time that the Martin film was returned to John T. Martin. Okay? Now, did it just get lost in the mail? Or was young Jim just not privy to the FBI sending the film back and his parents got it and took it and never told him? Probably. But in Jim's eyes, he never got his film back. Let's see. After several more years, Doyle retained attorney Richard Senders to attempt to retrieve the film from the FBI. Now, this says the family didn't recover the film until sometime in the early to mid 1970s. Mm-hmm. So, we have an FBI report specifically stating that they returned the film to the family at the end of January 1964. Yet we have the Doyles saying that they never got their film back. And they even hired an attorney, Richard Senders, named the guy. And they finally got the film back sometime in the early to mid 70s, when the Triple B was just a young, slobbering, burping, farting baby boy in 1974. After several more years, we're there. The family recovered the film. Yeah, okay. However, the Doyle family viewed the film they retrieved from the FBI, and they discovered that the film was not the same as they remembered it. The family noted the following differences, Joe.
Yes.
Number one.
Rob, just give me 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Just continue reading. I'm sorry.
I will.
30 seconds. Thank you.
Nobody can see you. Number one, the retrieved film makes Doyle's view appear to be much further away than before, which would lead you to believe that somehow some aspect ratio of the film had been changed as far as formatting. Now, we did see this same kind of thing with the John T. Martin film. Although the aspect ratio was changed, it was kind of the opposite, where the image was enlarged and it kind of cropped out other things that should have been there when compared to earlier versions of the Martin film, which we showed in our Martin presentation. Number two, the before film, the one they originally gave to the FBI, was approximately 2.5 minutes long. And the retrieved film only lasted approximately 45 to 50 seconds. But as we have it here, and you saw it, folks, that film is literally 31 seconds long. So
I think less. I think like 27 seconds.
At some point, at least 2 minutes of the film had been cut out. And as we heard from Jim Doyle, he can, even after the police showed up and they're walking away, he continued to film with his back to the sun while he's walking backwards down the street. And we see none of that in the film. Doyle's father, pissed off about the differences, later contacted the Glendale, California Processing Center. A representative, he doesn't remember who, told Doyle's father that the processing center did not have the negatives because the FBI had confiscated them on or around 11/23/63. The same day the FBI took the out-of-camera original film from the Doyle family in Oregon. Now, why is this important? Well, I would imagine, Joe, that when you sent your film away to be processed into some format that you would be able to watch on your home projector, right? Because, I mean, it would seem to me, at least unless they had an old ass camera, right, that, you know, one could shoot the film and then your projector could play the film, right? You wouldn't need to send it away. You know what I'm saying? Unless it had to be split, kind of like Zapruder's, you know, where it was 16 millimeter and it had to be split down to 8, and maybe they had a certain size projector. Maybe they had to get the film formatted to a different size.
Yeah,
I don't know. This is above my pedigree and pay grade, but
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was like,
at some point, you know, maybe unless you specifically requested it, you know, the place that processed your shit, like, kept your old shit and sent you what you wanted, right? So instead of sending you back some worthless negatives that you didn't need because you had a finished film that you could watch at that point, it's interesting to note that the Kodak place in Glendale, California, that is not in. Why am I back?
I don't know. You froze or I froze. It doesn't.
One of us froze.
One of us froze. It does not. It does not matter who. But yes, I was getting your point as to why they would send it to Glendale, California, instead of Portland, Oregon.
Well, maybe that was the closest processing center. I get it, but the FBI does have resources. They could have called their Los Angeles division and been like, "Hey, get your ass over to Kodak and Glendale and get these motherfuckers negatives," right? Because whatever was on this film, whatever was edited out of this film, must have been important enough for them to do that the same day they saw the film.
Yeah,
that's
agree.
Important.
I agree.
They didn't do it a month later. They did it the same day because they showed up at the Doyle's house. They watched the film. They turned it over to him. And as soon as they left the Doyle's house, they were probably like, we better call LA and tell them to go get the negatives for this shit because we got to clamp down.
Right. Yeah. And this is all as they're trying to, like, get their story straight,
Yeah.
A bunch of people are calling, whether it's Doyle, who I think was completely random, or John T. Martin a little later. They all had to, like, make this shit fucking jibe with each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it wasn't just the Doyle film that was edited. It wasn't just the Martin film that was edited. WDSU had footage of this apparently as well, and their footage was edited.
Right.
So,
right, which is why Weisberg included them as well.
Yeah,
in his whatever FOIA or whatever it was called back then.
So, whoever Oswald was with this day, acting as a pro-Castro supporter, had to be significant. It had to be somebody we know. You know?
That's what it seems to me. If it was some random scafuza, why? Why cover it up?
Yeah, nobody would care.
No one would care.
It would be like I said, like Charles Steele. You know, the guy he paid like whatever 25 cents or whatever to help him hand out those leaflets.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying to figure out who this guy was, if he's part of the Fair Play for Cuba committee, if he's one of Oswald's buddies. And he's just like, no, I was hanging out at the post office and he offered me $1 to hand this shit out. I'm like, okay. Easy money.
Yeah, and not even someone like Thomas Beckham. Like, why even protect him from that shit? Like, he's not even an important scafuza. I don't know, man. I don't know. The only thing I can come up with
Beckham
is,
says a lot of shit. He never said he was handing out leaflets with Oswald.
didn't he say he had a Coke with him after the Trade Mart?
Well, that was two different instances. That's at the Trade Mart where he's handing out leaflets.
It's like the 16th or the 21st. I know it's not this instance.
It's not this incident.
I know it's not. I'm
Yeah.
saying, yeah. Oh, okay. Got
it. Sometime later, Doyle couldn't be more specific. People started hounding him for access to the film on a regular basis. Hello, Harold Weisberg. Hello, Robert Groden. He believes that his name may have been mentioned in a book on the assassination, perhaps the 4 Days book. He has been contacted relentlessly by Robert Groden, Gary Mack, and Jim Garrison. Doyle refused to let Mack borrow the film because he could not guarantee its return. Now, of course, at this time, I think pre-1990s, Gary Mack was a conspiracy researcher. Worked with people like Jack White and Jim Mars and other local Texas researchers. It wasn't until he joined the Sixth Floor Museum that he kind of changed his stripes over to the dark side, if you will. But we know that, of course, the Sixth Floor Museum was trying to get their hands on every film associated with the Kennedy assassination. And to this day, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, they do not have the rights to the Doyle film. Like, it is not available on their site. It was never turned over to them.
Yeah, not to my knowledge. No.
Yeah, because trust me, I had to scour the darkest corners of the internet to find the Doyle film that I showed you earlier.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't paying $600 to remove the watermark.
Right. It's not a film that you could just put in YouTube. Actually, our friend Alex Harris has it up, JFK Theorist. But other than that, like, you won't be able to find it.
Yeah, until
and I just want to say good night. I guess the double B is heading in early. Good night, everyone. Bless you and peace be with you all.
Thank you, Brandon, for the super chats and the memberships gifted.
Yes.
Much appreciated, brother.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Yes.
And,
enjoy the rest of your Friday.
Yes, we'll talk to you soon. But yeah, no, I agree. 100%.
All right. So Doyle refused to let Mack borrow the film because he couldn't guarantee its return. He also offered to fly the film to Dallas if Mack bought his ticket, but Mack did not wish to do this. Doyle decided to visit a company named Photo Art in Portland, Oregon, which was able to transfer 8mm frames into still pictures, Joe.
Yeah. I think I have it up. Yeah.
Doyle made at least one of all the frames particular people, such as the Cubans, LHO. Here's where it gets weird. LHO's brother,
Whoa.
the police officer, the crowd, etc. What the actual fuck is going on here? Now, we know that it wasn't John Pike, right? With him. And we can probably infer that it wasn't Robert Oswald with him for sure.
Right.
Right.
They had not seen each other, as we discussed in our book review, or maybe I.
Well, of course they could say that, but what are the chances that Robert Oswald is leaving his job and his family to come skafooze around New Orleans with his brother Lee?
Almost zero.
and carry some kind of pro Castro fucking sign down the street.
Yeah, almost like 0.00001.
So what's interesting? Why would he say LHO's brother? Inferring that it could possibly be somebody that really looked a lot like Lee Harvey Oswald, Joe.
Okay. What are your thoughts here on this?
Well, I have a lot of them because when you think about people that resembled Lee Harvey Oswald in 1963, around that time, certain people come to mind, of course. Larry Crayford being one, but of course, we don't have Larry Crayford. We can't ever put Larry Crayford in New Orleans and not even in that part of the country until mid-October of 63, and that's in Dallas. So maybe take him off the books, right?
Yeah.
Now, what other person in your mind, Joe, that Lee Harvey Oswald is acquainted with who would actually do something like this with Lee Harvey Oswald? Now, we know it wasn't somebody older like George de Mohrenschildt or somebody like that, right?
Right.
But think a little later, somebody that he would go to these right-wing events with.
You got me there. I mean, you jogged my memory. That would be Mr. Michael of the Pain.
Yes. Now, he did in 1963. If Joe can pull up a picture of Michael Payne in 1963,
I'm working on it.
he did resemble Lee Harvey Oswald and could probably have passed for his brother. But again, this is 1963, okay? And a lot of folks kind of looked the same. They kind of dressed the same. They wore their hair the same. They were clean shaven. They were skinny. So even in your brain, you can associate some of the people who were around this guy's office a little bit. When you think about the Campbell brothers, when you think about David Lewis, people like that. David Lewis kind of looked a little bit like Lee Harvey Oswald as well. Don't know what the Campbell brothers look like, but there was a bunch of other young dudes, if you will, around. And even Carlos Quiroga could maybe have passed because he didn't really look full on Cuban. Like he was more like a white looking Cuban, a little older than Lee Harvey Oswald. But again, I'm trying to think of people who were around Lee Harvey Oswald or could have possibly been around him at this time. And we know that Quiroga was for sure showing up at his house, maybe bringing him flyers, trying to join the Fair Play for Cuba committee. Is it out of the realm of possibility that he would have marched down the fucking street with a sign just to try to infiltrate? For me, it's not out of the realm of possibility. But there you have Michael Payne. And there's other photos out there that look even more similar at a glance.
Yep, I have this one here. Let me give that one. Actually, I think this is Portal, Texas history.
Yeah, that's him walking through the Dallas police station.
Right, which would be almost exactly, in the fall of '63.
Right.
Right.
But now, of course, we know Michael Payne lived in Texas. But Ruth Payne traveled to New Orleans a couple times in the summer of 1963. So what could have prevented Michael Payne from coming to visit Lee in New Orleans at that time in 1963?
Yeah.
Because at this time, you must remember that Lee is not working a job. He's scafoozing around, right? He's doing this kind of like provocateur shit, right? Like later on in September, after he moves back to Dallas. Well, after that, you have these things where, he was supposedly with Michael Payne at a General Walker speech and ACLU speech, the whole Adlai Stevenson thing. Who knows?
Yeah.
Michael Payne to me comes across as somebody who would get off on doing dumb shit like this, kind of like Lee would, being a provocateur and then going, after the fact, sitting around laughing about it,
Right. I mean, he was a Trotskyite, right? Which is like I don't even know like how to describe it really, but other
it
than
ain't
like
far off from communist.
Yeah, it's like a weird in between. And I always thought that Ruth was sent to keep an eye on Marina, and Michael was sent to keep an eye or given the task of keeping an eye on Lee. And maybe that's why they were separated. Of course, they've been separating back and forth for months and maybe a year at this point, right? Towards like the end of '62. And DeMorchill talks about that. But I see it as not far off. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And they were definitely at that Walker meeting. That's pretty accepted, like within the community. I think it was the day before the Adlai Stevenson thing, or the day after. One of those two. It's
Turn brings up a good point. Maybe it was Thornley. Again, another guy that looked like Oswald that we know was in New Orleans. Definitely knew him. He definitely would do some dumb shit like this. He's about half a fucking nutball. Yeah, good call, Turin.
Yeah, good shit. That's a good one. I mean, Thornley looked kind of.
I don't think Ferry could pass for, or Dean Andrews could pass for Lee Harvey Oswald's brother. But
No.
But it gets weirder. So not only do we have that,
it gets weirder. Shocker.
So again, let me reiterate. Doyle made at least one of all the frames of particular people such as the Cubans, LHO, LHO's brother, the police officer, the crowd, etc. Now, after Doyle sent the stills to Gary Mack and others, he received information from them regarding some of the people seen within the film. And this is, of course, coming from the eagle-eyed researchers who are poring over these stills with monocle in hand. Doyle was told, and he will look for the document, re his source, that the person who approached Oswald with the knife or stiletto was a CIA operative, Joe.
Interesting.
And that several people in the crowd were FBI agents. He doesn't remember the source, but he had heard that Grodin obtained a copy of the film from the FBI for $30 and that Grodin wrote about the film in one of his books without Doyle's permission. Shocker.
Yes.
And who knows where Grodin got his copy of the Doyle film, which again, we can't find, or Grodin can't find to this day. So, apparently, whoever had the knife was identified as a CIA operative, a Cuban CIA operative, because that's what group of 7 or 8 Cubans rolled up on Oswald.
Right.
So who do we know, Joe? There were CIA operatives in New Orleans and who happened to be at the courthouse and captured on film at the courthouse the next day when Lee Oswald shows up in court.
Okay. Well, we definitely have Carlos Bernier, of course, is the obvious one.
Well, I wouldn't say he's a CIA operative.
Okay. We have Emilio Rodriguez then.
We have Ernesto Rodriguez,
Ernesto.
his brother Emilio, his father Ernesto Sr.
Yes.
And
Frank Barthez.
yes.
I got it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Good job.
Thanks.
Nice recall.
Lucky guess. Lucky guess.
So one of them Scafuzas, one of them 4, actually pulled a knife, right?
Never heard of this before researching this episode.
So now this kind of all makes sense. If you add all these Scafuzas together, then you're up to 7 or 8 Cubans.
How many Scafuzas make up a Cuban?
You got the Bernier crew of 3, and you got the CIA operative crew of 4.
No, but how many Scafuzas make up a Cuban?
1. They're 1 for 1.
I know. It was kind of a trick joke question, but yes.
So, and then, why else would these guys be at the courthouse if they weren't arrested as well? You see what I'm saying? They just didn't show up to take in the sights. You know what I mean?
Right.
So things are kind of falling into place with a narrative, especially if you throw in the fact that also, where were we? Yes. Several people in the crowd were FBI agents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These were supposedly identified by eagle-eyed researchers, with their monocles on.
Right. Which is what Weisberg and Schoner tried to identify. Like the guy, like there's a bunch of people in these white hats, right? They're like these white, like circle hats, kind of. I don't know how to explain it, but
that's maybe Lee knew it, and maybe why Lee asked to talk to the FBI, to somebody. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, your balls get a lot more bigger, right? If you're doing something at the behest or on behalf of the FBI. If you're an FBI informant and you're doing this to kind of garner information, they're like, don't worry, dude, we got you back. We're watching. We ain't gonna let it happen to you. Which is why Lee's like, hey, oh, you got a knife? Come on, hit me, Carlos. What, you gonna stab me? He's talking shit because he knows nothing's gonna happen because the fucking cops are right there and the FBI is right fucking there too. But once the New Orleans PD arrests him, the FBI kind of has to sink back into the shrubbery like Homer Simpson. And then maybe Oswald's sitting in jail like, man, fuck this. I'm doing this for I want to talk to somebody from the FBI, please.
Right. He gets fed up and has to request them at that.
And they come in, talk to him, say, look, dude, we'll go through all the formality bullshit and this and that, but you're just gonna have to take this one.
Take this for the team.
Yeah,
David.
This is not a big serious offense. Just whatever.
Right.
Go through the motions, get out of it, and we'll figure it out after that. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
Right.
Now, on the 30th anniversary of the assassination, that would be 1993, Joseph. Okay. 1 year before this letter and contact with Doyle by the ARRB.
Your boy was 7 years old.
I'm not going to say how old I was. Doyle let the BBC, that's the big black cocks, or the British Broadcasting Company, in conjunction with PBS, that's the public or pubic broadcasting system, borrow a VHS tape copy for the special. Now, for some reason, Doyle didn't actually give him a copy of the film itself. At some point, he had it transferred, or copies transferred to VHS. And this is what he sent to BBC and PBS. Because in the film, I know the PBS version, like Who Was Lee Harvey Oswald or whatever that special that they did, they included footage of the Martin film, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Doyle again took the film to photo art, but they were unable to transfer it to broadcast quality VHS tape. That is why the Doyle film does not appear in those specials. I find that hard to believe because, again, from the stills that we see in the actual movie, to me, that was pretty damn decent quality. But maybe once you transfer it to VHS, it turns into doo-doo. I don't know. Now, Doyle then goes to say that he trusted a man named John, doesn't remember his last name, who worked at Photo Art. And he allowed John to carry the actual film to Seattle, Washington for transfer to a proper quality broadcast ready tape. The production company compensated Doyle and John for their efforts. The film was copyrighted in Doyle's name. The film is now stored in a safe deposit box at an Oregon bank. And Doyle has the following items in the safe deposit box. Number one, Joe. The original, not the original, but the 8mm film returned to him by the FBI, depicting the events or some of the events that he filmed in August of 1963. And he has left approximately 3 or 4 of the still photos made at Photo Art. Now, remember, he apparently got stills made of each of the frames of the film that he got back. So 30 seconds worth of film, that's a lot of stills for every frame. And multiples of those as he sent those out to researchers. So he only has 3 or 4 still photos left that were made at Photo Art. Number 3, documentation about researchers who had contacted him and who he had given stills to. Number 4, documentation about all the FBI contacts with them and the film that was collected by his attorney in pursuits to get his film back from the FBI in the 1970s.
Was that like Senders? That was that guy? Senders? Yeah. Okay.
After I explained the deed of gift procedure, get off your mic. After I explained the deed of gift procedures, Doyle agreed to deed all of his material to the JFK collection so that it will be properly preserved for history. However, Doyle wants to ensure that the film will really make it to Washington, D.C., given his earlier negative experiences with the film. So he's not even trusting the ARRB at this point. He's like, I don't trust none of you government motherfuckers.
Right.
Right? You done fuck with my film. You gave me back some bullshit, right? You cut a bunch of stuff out of it. You know, now you want it again.
Right.
He says, I offered to pick it up from his house, and I told him I would check on some possibilities for transfer of the film and would contact him in about a week. So he would have time to review the information on the review board that I'm sending him. I suggested that in the interest of time, it might be best to arrange for a transfer now using an official receipt from Washington, and then proceed with execution of a deed of gift, which may take several months. And Doyle seemed amenable to this idea.
Right.
I reviewed the above information with him and thanked him for his time. Recommendations. I recommend that we ask Doyle to provide a copy of his videotape of the film and copies of some of its documentation to determine whether a trip to his home is warranted or not. And then they give some personal information here, Joe, like his address and his phone number.
Yes.
And the fact that he owns a pet store named CB Tropical.
Which I called earlier today.
Yes.
And I did cut that off, the info, after Doyle Jr.'s info.
Yeah. Now, I tracked down some things such as where Doyle was living in 1994. Okay. At the time of this banter back and forth with the ARRB. And this is his house. Very modest rancher, 2-car garage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got a nice Toyota in the of course that's more recent. This was taken in July of this year. I doubt this is Doyle's nice Toyota in 1994.
Right. But the house is the same.
Yeah, the house is the same. Ish. Yeah. I'm sure it's been fixed up. I mean, the yard looks nice and
little tree,
new roof, new paint job on the siding, you know.
Yeah.
Probably was a rundown shithole in 1994, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just guessing here. I don't know. I'm talking out of my arse here. But so, Joe, I got into my time machine DeLorean, and I went back to 1994, the year 1994 in Portland, Oregon, and I found the CB Tropical Aquarium.
Oh, wow.
This is its address as it was given in 1994. So this is what it looked like. And the goddamn mailman truck is in the fucking way.
Ugh.
But
fucking USPS.
Yeah, you can tell just by looking at the sign that this place has been here a while. Okay. Now, I went perusing and I found this on their website. Founded in 1972. Okay. CB's Tropical Aquarium has been a Portland staple for generations. Travis joined the team in 1994 and took over as owner several years later. Today,
I wonder if that's who I talked to today.
We specialize in custom and exotic aquariums that help bring all your aquatic dreams to life, Joe.
Ooh. I have many aquatic dreams.
So, you have in 1994, at some point after this ARRB interaction, you have Doyle selling the business. At some point after this, Travis came on. The future owner would come on to work with them the same year he talked to the ARRB, 1994. Or no, I'm sorry. He talked to him in 1996. So Travis had been working at the CB Tropical store for 2 years at the time Doyle was talking to the ARRB in 96. And they listed that as his business still in 1996. So Travis didn't take over until sometime after 1996, is what I'm trying to say. But it had been in the Doyle family since 1972. So, if you do some quick math, roughly for 25 years, right? Jim Doyle, young, smooth 14-year-old Jim Doyle at some point owned the CB Tropical aquarium shop until he gave it over or put in a trust or whatever you want to call it to Travis, who still to this day runs it. And I'll show you Travis in here in just a second, Joe.
Okay.
Now, recently, as of this year, Joe, it's official. They moved locations. Okay. They're no longer where they were for the past 50 some years. They moved. And their grand opening was actually this year on June 24th, 2025, to their new digs, Joe, which look like this. This is their new digs. They got new hours. Now you can kind of see, Joe. Now I know Portland is or can be a little bit of a shithole. So you can see the security gates in front of the business that they can close at night to keep out the riffraff.
I thank you
Right?
for pointing that out. Yes.
You see that on both sides? They got the
Yes.
security gates.
Yes, the black gates
Yes.
on the sides of the painting, if you will.
Yeah, you know, there's so much rampant drug use and homelessness and
Yeah.
liberal scafoozery going on in Portland, Oregon. They got to put up a fucking security gate, right?
Right.
Now, I read some of the reviews for CB Tropical, and they're out there, but they said at one point, one of the reviews said, you know, the owner's very nice. And it said, I did see him lose his shit one time, though, when the homeless people kept coming in there asking for water. And apparently he'd had enough of that bullshit one day and just started yelling at the homeless people to get out of the store. Now,
I mean, homeless people usually don't buy fish.
Right. You got any fish water you don't need? I'll drink that. I don't give a fuck. Now, here is Mr. Travis.
I wonder if that's the guy I talked to today. I feel like it might have been. He was like, why are you calling? I'm like, well, this is going to sound pretty weird, but...
Well, you know, before I figured out that this was Travis and not Jim Doyle, right? But I came across this picture, and if you look up on the shelf behind his head, Joe, you can see two pictures, like school pictures of some young kids.
Oh, on his left side, on the left side of his head, looking at the picture. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like,
one in black and one in a little lighter, like under, like to the left of those two, whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe
filters.
that's the next generation of the Doyle family or his grandkids or something.
Right.
But ultimately, the Doyle family, Jim Doyle, and apparently his sister Sharon, that never existed, according to Travis, are out of the picture when it comes to CB Tropical, which is actually still in business to this very day.
Yeah.
Now, it sucks that Travis didn't know more or wouldn't tell you more about the Doyle family.
Right.
Or maybe have a phone number, or did he even know if Jim's still alive?
So I said, do you know, is there a Mr. or Mrs. Doyle I can talk to? And he goes, they don't own this establishment anymore, or something like that. And I tried, and he goes, well, I was like, did they own it? And he goes, well, it's in a trust. And it was kind of like he was very nice to me. He wasn't not nice, but he wasn't like 100% forthcoming either, I feel. I don't know. I made a phone call.
You should have just called up and asked for Jim, right? And he'd see what he said, and then be like, "Look, I grew up in Portland. I used to go there all the time as a teenager and buy fish off Jim, and blah blah blah, and really buttered him up and see if he'd open up to you a little bit." But you're still honing your investigatory skills. And
No. I came across a post on the education forum that said Jim Doyle has since passed away, and that lines up for me. If Travis is who I talked to, and he says it's in a trust, that lines up for me. I don't know, but who the fuck knows anymore?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting story with some interesting twists and turns and
Fascinating story. Yeah.
weird things you've never heard of before when it comes to the story. And again, where's all the truth in this? I don't know, but there definitely seems to be some fuckery abound when it comes to these FBI taken edited films of this event. There has to be a reason why.
Right.
And if you take into consideration that 7 or 8 Cubans got cut down to 3 and a knife taken out of the equation, and the fact that 2 demonstrators got cut down to 1,
There has to be a reason for it.
right there,
Yeah.
is your red flag.
Yeah.
And possibly the key to opening this whole thing up to try to figure out what the fuck was happening in New Orleans in the summer of '63 with Lee Oswald. Obviously, he had somebody that he was working with that they didn't want you to know about.
Yeah.
The question is, who is it? I mean, God, could you imagine if it was Michael Payne? Could you imagine that, Joe? What the repercussions of that would be?
That would be nuts. Or if it was any other half dozen scafuzas, that would have created a huge problem if arrest reports with Lee and that guy came out. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but it's
who
interesting.
knows?
She specifically called this guy LHO's brother. That is wild to me.
Yeah, you have to think they looked somewhat alike or acted alike or something to make that comparison.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, like we have talked about the John T. Martin film and how it was messed with. We've shown stills and the Walker thing and all that. We've gone over that. We've talked about this. They're hiding something. I don't know what it is, but they're hiding something.
They're definitely hiding something.
Yes, and it's probably an asset and or agent screwing with Lee late.
Or was
summer.
it Harvey and Lee together?
Could have been Harvey and his brother Lee. They looked alike, Rob, according to people.
I mean, who knows what the hell's going on here?
But like, really, who knows? But all I know is that something more is going on, for sure.
Yeah. All right, folks. We did it again. We delivered.
Yes.
At the last second. Something amazing.
Yeah.
Something informative. Something entertaining. And as we always do, we appreciate each and every one of you showing up and showing out in the comment section. You guys rock. Thank you, everybody, for the super chats and support and the memberships. Man. Yeah, I know, right, Turn?
Yeah, man. I mean, we try to like come up with some good topics, and this one is kind of one that's up our alley, and one that made me kind of go back and forth a bunch of times. And like,
we've had this one in our back pocket for a little while, just full transparency.
Yeah,
because we were going to maybe do something at Lancer at some point about this, and then they went to the dark side, and we said negative Ghost Rider, and it's kind of big for just a normal episode of the Lone Gunman podcast, but it would have, if we would have went as deep as we possibly could have, had we had enough time to do this correctly, it definitely, and we have much more information about this.
Yeah.
It could have definitely been something like a conference presentation on its own, for sure. I mean, fuck, Joe, we're 2 hours into it now. Could you imagine whittling this son of a bitch down to an hour or 55 minutes? And,
No.
I mean, it's just so much information to take in, so much crazy stuff that needs to be tracked down and verified and see what's going on. But I think we pulled it off, Joe.
I think so. And we did do it with like about 24 hours of notice, and we did have this in our back pocket. And there could be a part 2 of this. I mean, it's not like over. We have some more leads we're kind of tracking down with this film, but James
this
Smith,
is a very open-ended subject that can definitely be tracked down some more, like our folks in Oregon. Hi, Colleen. Maybe you could show up at CB Tropical and unbutton an extra button on your blouse that day.
Yeah. Talk to Travis there, and
Travis, see what you find out. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would be appreciated.
Hey, that's how a lot of research was done, back in the day.
And our secret weapon in there. Here's the Rocket Queen. Get in there.
Yeah, for sure. James Smith said the New Orleans Rosetta Stone, the FRACAS, I think he's talking about. But yeah, I agree. It's up there.
Yeah, something is not right about it.
Yeah,
especially when you have all these CIA affiliated Cubans at the courthouse, right? And again, that gets the Cuban count up to 7 from the 3 that we're told, right? And if we're told about the 3, then they really don't matter because they're nobodies. They're just affiliated with the DRE, right? Not the CIA, right? But when you have actual CIA affiliated Cubans, you might want to keep that on the down low a little bit, right?
Yes.
And not have them around Oswald. Because you have to put a knife on the guy.
Man, that knife thing was, I think, the most surprising thing I learned in this episode was that that there's a witness testimony that there was a knife, a stiletto involved on Canal Street. That's crazy. Scott, another great show with totally original research. We try, maybe not completely original, but we try to put our own spin on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We try to go the extra mile or maybe quarter mile. Anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You can't go any more deeper than calling a fish store owner in Oregon. And yes,
we can send our secret weapon Colleen in there with a
I guess we could go a little deeper,
which was the original plan.
Pun intended. Yes, but I did try doing that today, and I was like, "This is gonna sound weird, but I'm a JFK researcher," and he's like, "Oh, okay," but I didn't know it was Travis. That was funny.
Talk about smelling fishy, Scott. You got that right. This whole story.
That is comment of the night. Scott wins it again, as he usually does.
Bravo, Scott. Bravo, sir. Yeah. Another amazing fish story from the Lone Gunman podcast.
Oh, man.
All right, Joe, grab the goddamn dog. Grab the fish. Grab your fish. Ruby!
She knows I'm like gonna grab her. Ruby, come here. Ruby.
I'll grab Dino by the balls and drag him in here.
Oh, give me a second.
All right, folks. We've done it again. We're here. We're in New Orleans again. It's Friday night. Still early if you want to party a little bit. There she is. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for learning with us. Thanks for researching with us. We hope you learned something. I know we did, for sure. It just adds more confusion to the whole story. But that's what we do here. Ruby looks scared.
He's tired. We have the in-laws in this weekend.
Ruby! Guys, we'll see in the pay-per-view before we see you on Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. Until then. Oh, and we're recording quick hits in the morning, allegedly. We're looking out for that too. Sometime this weekend to drop.
Very nice.
Papa.